In today's video, we're looking at the ALM Busy Circuits Pamela's new workout. Pamela's new workout is it's a simple yet complex module, but you are going to get so much utility out of this in your rack. So what Pamela's new workout is it has 8 outputs, which are basically going to be clock sources, or instead of using them as clock sources, you can use them as LFO, random voltage, envelopes, all sorts of really cool functions that you can basically use to modulate and open up your whole system. So a lot of people just think about this as a clock source, but it is so much more. In addition to your 8 outputs, you're going to have a clock input if you want to run off the clock of something else in your system. You also have a run input here, a CV1 input, and a CV2 input. So some really cool functions. I'm excited to dive into all of this. In this video, I'm going to walk you through basically how the system works. I'm actually going to show you just kind of some of the outputs of everything so you can actually see it on a scope. And then we'll do a quick sound demos here at the end and show you what this thing is all about. So first thing I'll say about Pamela's is that it has a menu system here, and I hate menu diving, but I love my Pamela's new workout. And it's because the menu is really simple. I mean, it's really straightforward. It makes a lot of sense. Takes a little bit of time to learn, but I'm going to walk through it here with you, and you're going to see that it's really not that difficult. So let me start off, and I'll show you that first you have a BPM here. And so if I click on that, I can change the BPM. Then I can also scroll through, and you'll see that we have output 1, modifier 1x, output 2, output 3, and so on. You'll see I actually have divided by 2, so I actually have some settings in here already. And basically, those are just going to give me the controls over each output. And then if I come in here into output 1 and I hold on it, then it'll basically bring me into a kind of area where I can do some more. But if I hold again, I'm going to pop up. But if I just click on it, now look, I can go modify 2, 4, 6, 8. So, and then if I hit play, you'll see now we're running output 1. These little green lights here actually show you what the clock source is doing on each of these. So we're going at times 12, so really fast. Let's say we drop that down to divided by 2. Now you can see that that green light's going really slow. So for demo purposes, look up here in the scope, and you're going to see that we're just outputting a gated signal up, down, really, really simple, straightforward. And again, I can kind of make that go faster if I want quicker signals of gates. So we can start with there. We'll just take it down to 1x right now. And again, if I hold on this, it's going to take me to this thing where it says wave. And now I'm in the next menu where I am modifying output 1. You'll see it says output 1 up here in the top left. And so again, that's giving me kind of another just menu where I can kind of show this. So now what I can do is I can scroll through parameters. So I'll have a wave parameter, level, width, phase, delay, division, random skip. Euclidian step, Euclidian triggers, and Euclidian rotation, as well as loop, quantize, logic, slop, and save. And then we're back to wave. So a ton of features there. I know it looks like overwhelming, but I swear they're all pretty straightforward. And so I'm going to walk you through, and you'll probably use a handful of these a bunch, and some of them occasionally. But I'm going to go ahead and walk you through each of these settings. So first thing I can do here is I can click into my wave. I just click once, and now I have a gate signal. And then I can go to triangle. And if I look at my wave, now I'm generating a triangle wave. A sine wave, I'm starting to generate a sine wave off of this. An envelope. A random voltage. So now I'm setting random. And then I have smooth random, where basically it's actually kind of just doing a smooth step, so it's not the previous was hard changes. Now we're doing smooth random. And then I can also do CV1 and CV2, which I'll explain a bit later. So let's start with our gate here. And again, if I want to get back up to the next parameter, I click that once, and you'll see I'm no longer highlighting gate. And I can scroll through my parameters again. Next thing I can do is I can adjust here is the level. And so that's on a 0 to 100. Basically, it's an attenuverter. And so if I kind of start to bring that down to, say, 25 or 26% there, you can see now my gate signals are much lower in volume, or I guess total CV height. I'm using the wrong words here. But you can see it's much lower than it was at 100. So again, bring that up to 100. we'll put it at 75 here, and you can see we've got signals going up and down. Click once, now I'm no longer selecting that number, I'm back at level. Now I can go to offset. Offset, what I can do is I can basically add to the bottom. So you're gonna see I'm adding a floor to it. So you see I'm basically kind of offsetting that up a little bit. Fortunate thing I don't love is you can't go negative. So immediately you just kind of wrap rec around to 100 offset. So don't love the whole not negative thing, but it is what it is, and you're just gonna have to learn how to work with that. Click out of that, click down into the width. So width is gonna be your pulse width. And so again, if I go all the way to the right on this, you'll see I have really long width. And if I go down to say like 20% here, really short width. Now the cool thing one of the things to know about width, so if I come back up here and I go to my wave, is that it doesn't just control the pulse width. So if I go to my sine wave or my triangle wave, you'll see it's almost getting sawtoothish there. So we would basically be at a sawtooth if we went all the way in that direction. My envelope, what that does is that really controls how long your envelope hits are there. You've got your random. I don't know if it really does much to random, now that I think about it. And then you've got CV on there, which I'm going to get and kind of talk through those here in a bit. But that is kind of just overarching, kind of, again, seeing that the width affects more than just the actual pulse width. Next down here is phase. And so phase is it's gonna be hard to really see. You can't really see what's going on there. But basically, if I had a kick and a snare and I put one and they were both hitting every note, and I put the phase at 50 on that snare, it's basically gonna have the snare hit halfway between. And so basically your phase is just gonna kind of offset your waveform, but really, really useful, especially for making rhythmic like drum hits here and just kind of offsetting certain hits. All right, next one I have here is delay, and delay is an interesting one here. And so first you have to make this work, you have to set your delay division. And we're just gonna say it's by 2. And then what delay is gonna do is it's gonna basically kind of flatline the front of your wave a bit and then start. And then it's gonna kind of like be destructive, where basically it'll cut off the end of your wave. If you start looking, I start getting some like really weird waveform stuff going on here because it's kind of like cutting that, that wave. So again, I'll show some kind of images from the manual that kind of explain what exactly is going on here, but it is a wonky little feature. I'll admit I don't use this one too much. I wish I probably knew how to make it more useful, but that is what it is. That's kind of where I'm at with it. So random skip, I love this one. This one is great to just add to some drums, but you put drums at around 20% random skip. And now you start to see that, we're running some waves, and then at some point it's gonna just go ahead and, well, hold on. Maybe gotta click that in. But now it should just be randomly skipping waves about 37% of the time. So look, missed a wave. We'll bump that up so you can see it. So let's just say we skip a wave 72% of the time. And look at this, you just got chunks without waves, and then just randomly it's gonna just hit again. So basically, again, random skip, really cool. I love putting that at a low place there, and it makes like some great probability on your drums there. Euclidean steps. So basically Euclidean steps, there's whole videos out there on what Euclidean is. If you don't know what it is, I would recommend checking out those videos. It's basically a way to make really cool syncopatic drum patterns. So let's just say I put my Euclidean steps at 7, and then the Euclidean triggers is basically saying how many times out of that do you want to trigger. And so I should actually probably... So I got my random skips off, and so you're now going to see I'm going to trigger 3 out of every 7 Euclidean steps. And then if you don't like that pattern, you can rotate the Euclidean rotation as well, and that'll kind of just rotate steps throughout it as well, and just kind of have it loop or start in a different way. So interesting stuff with Euclidean. If you're into Euclidean drums, crazy drum patterns, like it is awesome for that too. Next one we have here is loop. So basically loop is going to take smooth random, it's going to take your Euclidean functions, it's going to take any of your functions that you're putting in there, and you can say, hey, I want a 16 beat loop. And now every 16 beats, those random things will kind of, will synchronize, and they will no longer be adding new random. It'll just kind of like print that pattern, basically until you reset and turn this off. So this is a really cool thing. Think about this kind of almost like a Turing machine type function here. So again, really cool way to kind of just loop random on that as well. So you know what, let me just kind of demonstrate that real quick. So let's just say we go and we do a random function here, and we've got our level up, And we've got this random, and you know, I'm gonna even turn this up so we can really see this thing. And so now you're seeing we just got this random pattern that's going pretty intensely. If I go here now and I make it, I'm gonna make a really short loop. Let's make a 2-beat loop. And now you're gonna see it's gonna literally do that same thing over and over again. So it's just gonna follow that exact same random pattern that it hit. And so now you've got this kind of loopable CV where you kind of created it by random, but now you're actually kind of locking this in. So again, a really cool feature, something you can do there. Quantize, this is another cool thing. So you can take this, right now it says no, not quantized. Then you've got minor, harmonic minor, I think I actually skipped right over major. Yep, major right at the start. And so there's a whole key in the manual, but basically it's got a ton of different scales in here. And so now if I do this, I am basically quantizing all of that output to actual scales that I could put into my synths, various other types of things. Logic, to be honest, I'm not going to cover this because I don't know about you guys. I read about logic in manuals. It kind of makes sense to me there, but I can't figure out how in the hell to make a damn musical thing out of it. So this is a little beyond me. I'm going to leave logic for someone else to explain. Slop, so this is a really cool feature here where basically what you're creating is you're simulating kind of like human imperfection. So it's just going to kind of like randomly slop play beats a little early, a little late. And so you can go from just like a little bit, which will make your drums feel more organic, to like really messing it up here and just having it to be this really sloppy, messy thing. You have mute here, so you can also just turn that channel on and off if you want to by just clicking in there and switching that to mute. Then you've also got save here, so you can save. And you can go ahead and save that into various bank slots here. So you've got multiple save spots if you want to save, say, like a certain type of CV pattern you want to use over and over again. You can also save those looped features that we mentioned before. So if you got that random loop that you love and it's just like it's hitting for you, you can save that loop and recall that in the future. So really cool thing that you can do there with like the save features there. And then load, same thing here. You would actually then load from a bank that you had. So again, you can kind of load. A large, you know, looks like, I mean, you literally go through the whole alphabet with it looks like 8 banks on every single letter. So you got no shortage of saving your CV patterns in here. Like, look at this thing. This is just massive. Like, you can never have this many CVs. It blew my mind. Okay. And then the last one, this one is really handy. So we've got all this stuff going. You see the green dot here. Reset, hit OK, boom. You're back to firing a wave at ×8 here. It keeps your modifier, but if you click into here, wave, your level 100, 50, 0, all of these are kind of defaulted back to 0. So great way to kind of just reset your channel right there. So that is like the core functions, and you just have 8 of those. And so, I mean, you can be putting gates on one channel, you can be putting random on another channel, you can be putting LFOs on another channel, envelopes. So you can do a bunch of really, really cool stuff with it. But that is what's really powerful is you have 8 of these outputs and you can have so many different things you can do with them. All right, let me dive into a few other really important features here. So if we come back up to our core level, you're going to see that, you know, I still have a bunch of these just doing random things from when I programmed it earlier. So if I go to my BPM and I click it once, I can change my BPM. We'll go up to 75 here. But if I click and hold that, it brings me into another menu. And this is a really interesting menu where you can kind of change a handful of different things here. The most important one I find is resetting. So sometimes if I just ripped out a patch, I'm starting something new, I just go into here, reset, boom, everything is on a ×1 multiplier clock output. So right there, that reset one is super powerful to just get you started from scratch. You can reset individual channels, but if you do it from the BPM menu, you're going to reset the whole module. This PPQN, this is basically some like clock lingo, but basically what this is saying is most clocks output either 24 like pulses, I think, per beat, or 48. So like if I were to take the output of my subharmonicon or something, I would probably be kind of linking it at 24 or 48. But then if you kind of did some other stuff, you can basically kind of set your clock division if, say, you're coming from something that's not actual clock. So I recently had was patching into some a friend's system. Best thing he could give me was basically like a 16th note drum hit, and so I was able to kind of come down here, and I think we used like 4 or 2, which kind of then basically inputted my clock and synced my system to his. So really handy to kind of just change what is your clock input here. You can save something here. This is going to save everything. Previously we saved banks for individual instruments. This will save everything. And then you also have your load function there, so you can load up an entirely new setting for this as well. All right, so next here, I want to talk about the run feature here. This is another interesting one. I'll admit I don't use this much, but I see the potential power, and so I'll do my best to explain it here. So if I come to the run, there's a handful of different features here. So reset, trig in all reset. So if we send a trigger into the run, what that's going to do is it's going to take all 8 of these, and say if you're in the middle of a Euclidean pattern or you're in the middle of a loop, it's going to reset that all at the start. So simple, just a little reset feature here. The next one is going to load in the next sample bank. And so this one I think is really interesting because basically you can kind of save songs on here, and then you could basically kind of advance sample banks with these. So again, I think this one's really interesting if you're playing a set and you need to advance through multiple ones really quickly. You could set something that's just kind of a little button that you hit, and it's going to advance you to the next one here. So this one starts to, this will basically mean run will rotate a row if you send a trigger in. So 1 would become 2, 2 would become 3, 3 would become 4, 4 would become 1. And then basically this one triggers in all the, and then the next one is rotating all, so literally 1 down through 8. So it's literally going to rotate them around. So you can do some pretty crazy things where you literally just have it all, and then you switch the CV, and you just make this totally new sound thing going on. So pretty wild pattern you can do with that as well. Great for generative type stuff. All right, this next one here, load CV. This again, these are complicated. Like you got to be really intentional with setting something like this up. But so the run previously, the one where we looked at that was load the next one in basically the sequential order. Load by CV basically means that is going to split up into 1 to 16. And so basically you can load your first 16 banks by sending a trigger into run. And based on how large that trigger is, that will basically tell you if it's loading CV 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 11, and so on. So another way to load CVs or load songs there. So again, a little tricky one, but another interesting angle there. Oh, that is not what I want. I did not want to save. Come back here. And that is what we got for run. So it is a interesting function. I'll admit I don't use it a lot, but again, I think it can be something really interesting potential there. All right, next one I want to show you is CV here. So this is super interesting. And so what I'm going to do to demonstrate CV, I'm going to come back out here, and I'm going to go into channel 1. And I'm going to hold down on channel 1. And then instead of having a level of 100%, so you can see on our scope that basically our gate is once again still going to 100%. I am going to change that to CV1. All right, now the next thing I'm going to do to demonstrate this is, so I'm going to go ahead, we're going to say output 7 down here, and I'm going to run that into CV1. And, what you'll first start to see is that basically this seems to start be working because when the gate's on, it's actually on. But let me come back out now, and let me go to output 7. And first thing I want to do is I'm going to slow that down a little. And then I'm going to change it from a square wave to a triangle wave. And now take a look at what that's doing. So basically, while this is automatically, channel 1 is just sending out those gate signals, the level is being basically controlled now by this, this triangle wave. So you can see, again, a really cool thing there. So again, I had assigned that. So let's just go back to channel 1 here. And we've got the level adjusted by CV1. Let's take the offset by CV1. And now you're going to see, hey, look at this. Like it's kind of jumping up and down here, but that offset, that floor is raising all the way to the top. All right, so I want to show you another cool thing with this. So level 1 here, it is basically, again, we have the CV1 selected. But if I hold that, it gives me 2 more parameters. So actually 3, so I can do the value here. So I can see that CV coming in and out, and I can see what that's doing. But now what I can do is I can also offset that, and I can say, hey, I want that CV to always be at least at 50%. And so now you're going to see that triangle wave, look at that, it's kind of like offset, and so it peaks out at the top a bit there. So again, we can offset basically our CV input there as well, which is interesting. But I think the even more useful thing is you can start to attenuate it. And look at that, we go to 50, and now, hey, that whole thing, the waves just don't go as high. So really cool feature in terms of what you can do there. You can put that over almost any parameter in this thing. So I'll bring that back up to 100 here. And I mean, I can do that on my level, I can do that on my width, my phase, delay, like any of these things you can put CV control over, and you can do some really just interesting things there where you're just kind of messing with this. And again, this is just PAMS modulating itself. You can put other things into this as a source as well. And last but not least, the only button, I don't even think I've actually described this, but you have a simple start and stop button right there. I think it's about the final feature you need to know in this bad boy. It is super powerful. There is an expansion for this, which gives you 2 more dedicated clock outputs as a way so that basically you've got 2 more outputs. You've got 10 total. And then the idea is that you don't have to use these as your clock outputs, and you can just do all fun stuff with them basically. But again, I don't have that one on here, but just something that is a possible solution as well. All right, so I've got a whole patch here I just set up, and I'm gonna try to walk you through, unmute this channel by channel so you can see what I've got going on here and kind of explain how I use the features. So first we've got the kick running right here into Pico drums. So the second one here I've actually got running into this clap here. And you're gonna see that I also have the phase set to 50%. So even though they're both at 1x multiples, you now see that basically I'm using the phase to play one off of the other. Next here I have just a divided by 8 trigger going into this audio sample right here. Let's pull that up. So really simple, just have a little sample going in. I'm going through Melodious Versio, doing a little audio effect on that. And you'll see I'm gonna automate that effect a bit more. So we're gonna come back out. Now the next one here we have going into the mix on the data bender. So this orange one here, we have a basically, I'm gonna pull this up here to my mute. And so this is what really cool. So I'm doing on this one, I'm using a triangle wave, but I've actually set the level to 70%, so that'll go out to 70% wet, and I made the width 99%. If you remember, that's going to skew it, so it's going to be kind of like a reverse saw wave where it's going to go up to the right. So that is kind of slowly bringing up my mix every 8 beats. Hear that? So, all right. Come down here to number 5. We have number 5 is going to a plate right here. And I just have this doing a trigger. So you hear that. That is just doing a really simple pulse here on every 4 beats, so 4x. And just have a simple wave, just it's triggering my plates. All right. Now number 6 here is totally empty. All right, so apparently I started something, never actually used it on number 6. All right, never mind. Going on to number 7 though. Number 7 I've got running all the way over into my maths over here, and I'm actually triggering basically 2 more kind of like envelopes, one of which is going to kind of duck what will actually be, I think, be the final one here. I'm going to turn almost as Manus, but it's also going to kind of modulate some other effects here as well. What do I have that? I have that going into the corrupt on the data bender, kind of adding some effect. And then the last one is pretty cool. I'm going to add the Manus Ateritas. So you hear I've got the Manus Ateritas hitting on quarter notes, and I've got maths kind of pulsating on that. So there you have it. That is Pamela's new workout. Again, this thing is just amazing. So many things you can do with it. Can become like really a core brain of your system. I have a BeatStep Pro that I use in conjunction with it. Even with the BeatStep Pro, I still find this super useful, even if I'm just using to control LFOs instead of like triggers and everything. Just the LFOs, the random. I wasn't even using random in this patch, but I could take any one of these things, output a random signal to any sort of parameter, and then you start to get a lot of variety into it, and you can time that random. So there's just so many really interesting use cases and ways to use this. Highly recommend it. Love it. I had another clock source before this that just wasn't quite the same. Like, I have not seen anything else out there on the market that quite compares with Pamela's new workout. Thank you guys for watching, and until next time, follow the rabbit.